Hi guys, welcome to this video. I'm Prashant, I'm the founder of Word Pandit, and I'm bringing this series of videos for you which is going to help you crack the RC code, right? This video is going to deal with reading comprehension questions, the different types of questions that we have for RCs. And in this complete series of videos, what I'm going to do is one by one, I will take up RC question types, right? So this video, part 1 of the question types, is going to deal with one particular types of questions. Then we'll have another video dealing with the other types of RC questions. I've divided them into two broad categories. So these videos are dealing with individual categories of questions, and then we will have videos relating to individual question types. So this whole series of videos is going to help you do something very, very critical. It's going to help you develop a broad mechanism to solve RC questions. These videos are going to offer you quick and essential revision for RC question types, and at the same time refine your approach, develop an approach to solve RC questions, right? The complete set of videos are only going to deal with RCs and how do you approach them, how do you approach particular types of questions, things that you can implement directly with respect to your RC practice, right? So these tips are going to be vital. The first step is you understand what you are dealing with. Now there are two question types on a very broad basis, the big picture questions and the specific detail questions. These are the two types of questions that you deal with in RCs. Now both these question types require different approaches on your part. Your exam strategy should vary according to the type of questions you are encountering in a particular RC, and that is what we are going to deal with here. Now in this particular video, we are going to deal with big picture questions. Which are these big picture questions that you're going to face in the exam? Now the most prominent question type in this particular set of questions is identify the main idea of the passage, identify the main point, the central idea, the gist of the passage, or this could be framed as summarize the passage in one line. So all these questions are based on one central thing. They are asking you to identify the main idea or main point of the passage. This is the what of the passage. Then there's the question type, identify the primary purpose of the author of the passage. When they ask you to identify the primary purpose of the author of the passage, they are asking you to identify the why of the passage. Why has the author written this? Then there could be a question type which says identify a suitable title for the passage. This is related to the first question type, right? Identify basically relating to the main idea of the passage. Then you could be asked to identify the structure and organization of the passage, how that information is presented and structured. This is dealing with the elements of the passage rather than the content of the passage, right? So this is not based on the content of the passage. The first question, the main idea of the passage, the title of the passage, these are driven by the content. This is driven by the elements of the passage used, the structural elements used by the author. The primary purpose of the author of the passage is then related to point number 6 on this slide, the tone, attitude of the author of the passage. Primary purpose, tone, attitude are connected to each other. Title and main idea are connected to each other. Structure and organization is about content, is not about content of the passage, it's about the structural elements used. Then you've got another question type in this set of questions, identify the most likely profession of the author of the passage. These are all questions which are based on the big picture, which basically means they are based on the overall ideas of the passage, right? So these are the different types of questions that you have. Now, an important point for these questions. These are questions which are based on the overall idea of the passage, which means the one very critical thing you've got to keep in mind is you should not need to refer back to the passage for these questions. You should not need to reread the passage, right? These questions have to be solved on the first read. You need to develop a broad understanding of the passage in the first read itself, and you should solve these questions without rereading the passage. Now this fact makes these questions must solve questions in the exam, right? Because anything that is not asking you to go back to the passage, reread it, refer back to the points in the passage is going to save time in the exam. So these are the kinds of questions that you should be looking forward to and you should try to solve in the examination. Now broad strategy for big picture questions, because we're going to deal with these individual question types in individual videos. What is the broad strategy you adopt for big picture questions? While reading, you ask yourself what, why, and how of the author. You continuously keep asking yourself, what has the author talked about, right? Why has the author said so? and how has he conveyed his message, what is his method, right? So your critical aspect that you've got to keep in mind is, what has he talked about? This is going to be the main idea of the passage. Why has he said this? This is the primary purpose of the passage. How has he said this? This is the structure and organization of the passage, right? So you continuously keep asking yourself what, why, how, what, why, how. This will keep you engaged, right? Now, what has the author written about? What has he said about this topic? These are things that you generally make a mental note of while reading, right? So just keep asking yourself, keep answering this question. Why has the author written this? This is his purpose, right? Why has he written this particular passage, and how has he written this? As I said above, as I said previously, this is the structure of the passage. Now give yourself some simple prompts. When you're talking about the structure of the passage, just ask yourself, has he written this in a positive way, in a negative way? Is he trying to convince me of something? Is he trying to convince me that this particular thing is bad? Is this particular thing good? So these are small little questions that you've got to keep asking yourself. Remember, when you ask these three questions, what, why, and how, you will see that how these are connected to one another, right? And basically, essentially, you are making a framework for the passage, and that is what is required for big picture questions, right? Now, essentially what you are doing is, when you ask the what, why, and how of the passage, you string together the story of the author, right? You are basically identifying what is it that the author of the passage is trying to do, and what is the kind of information he's conveying to you. Now, this has one more benefit. It improves your focus while reading, right? Now, our biggest challenge with RCs is our retention. We are not able to retain what we read. So if you keep asking yourself with every paragraph, what has he written, why has he written, how has he written, if you keep asking yourself this, you will see your attention improves. And secondly, obviously, when you do this with every paragraph, you have the thematic makeup of the passage in front of you. You string together the story of the author, and you identify what the author is trying to say. So for example, coronavirus is one of the topics which is dominating the news this year for obvious reasons. So the passage might be based on the psychological impact of coronavirus on the psychological makeup of individuals, right? The author might be trying to explain this to you. So what you identify this from the passage is, and the passage might have numerous examples for the same, you identify that all these examples are pointing out to one thing, right? A, this is about the coronavirus, which is broadly the subject of the passage. What has he talked about in this particular context with respect to the subject? He has probably told us, he's given us different examples, and he's telling us what is the impact of coronavirus on the psychology of individuals. How does it psychologically impact individuals? Now the next step could be, he's trying to convince us of something. He's trying to convince us of probably treatments for this, or how to identify these impacts and how to deal with these impacts. So these are different aspects that the author of the passage would have in his passage, and your job as a reader is to just identify these, understand these, because if you understand all of this, right, if you understand the basic framework operating behind passages, your comprehension massively improves. And remember, your exam might be on any day, right? Your exam, you might be watching this particular video 10 days before the exam, 7 days before the exam, 1 year before the exam. This is a skill that you imbibe in your practice at any given point of time, right? So you just remember WWH, what, why, how. You keep asking yourself this, and you keep stringing together the story of the author. That is your intent, and that is what you should be doing, right? So this is how you deal with big picture questions. You deal with the what, the why, and the how of the passage. You build up this thematic makeup, and you keep this in mind, and you use these skills productively to solve RC passages. So this concludes the first part of RC question types and how you deal with them. We will have a whole set of videos that you can use and employ effectively to improve your RC skills. So do subscribe to our channel, keep watching us, and keep improving your VARC skills. Thank you very much for watching this video, and happy learning.